And the fifth meeting of the Interim Joint Committee on State Government is called to order. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Armstrong.
Here.
Senator Elkins. Senator Harper Angel.
Here.
Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator McDaniel. Senator Nemes.
Present.
Senator Storm. Senator Thayer.
Here.
Senator Wheeler. Senator Williams. Representative All.
Here.
Representative Bojanowski. Representative Bowling.
Here.
Representative Branscombe. Representative Callaway.
Here.
Representative Chester Burton.
Present.
Representative Decker.
Present.
Representative Duvall.
Here.
Representative Gooch. Representative Graham.
Here.
Representative Heath.
Here.
Representative Heverin. Here. Representative Herron. Representative Hodgson. Here. Representative Huff.
Here.
Representative Imes.
Here.
Representative Johnson.
Here.
Representative Cook. Representative Derek Lewis. Representative Scott Lewis. Here. Representative Maddox.
Here.
Representative Moser. Representative Rawlings.
Here.
Representative Raymond.
Here.
Representative Tate. Representative Tipton. Here. Representative Weber.
Here.
Representative Williams. Representative Witten.
Here.
Senator Mills. Representative Hale.
Here.
Representative Bratcher.
Here. All right. So before we get started, everybody please put their cell phones on mute. That's what I have to remind myself to do. It's embarrassing to be up here in your... And when you talk, make sure your green light is on your microphone. I know I'm a wide load up here, so... Does anybody have any guests they'd like to recognize? I would like to recognize someone. Alicia, can you stand, please? This is Alicia Miller, and I'd like to recognize her as my special guest. Our committee staff administrator for the State Government Committee. She is getting ready to retire after 25 years. It's going to be odd not seeing you, Alicia. I've been here a long time like you have, and you have a well-deserved retirement. I hope you enjoy. All right, so we'll get on with the agenda. The first order of business is to approve the minutes. Do I hear from the September 26th meeting? Do I hear a motion? Motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Minutes are approved. Okay, our first guest will be Jeffrey Sparks and Christina Stewart from the Office of Vital Statistics. The floor is yours. Just go ahead and announce yourself and give us your name, and then the floor is yours. Go ahead and turn your microphones on. Make sure the green light's on and bring it up to your face.
Oh, there it is.
Good morning. My name is Jeffrey Sparks, and I am the Administrative Section Supervisor in the Office of Vital Statistics.
Again, I'm Christina Stewart. I'm the Branch Manager of Vital Statistics, and I'm your current State Registrar. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for allowing us to share a brief overview of the Office of Vital Statistics program. We will provide an overview of the core functions that support our mission and details related to the collection of certificates of death, including sharing death data more specifically with the State Board of Elections. We have a few slides to show, and then following the slides, if there are any questions, we'll be happy to answer those questions. In 1910, Kentucky Vital Statistics Law was enacted, which legalized the collection and registration of births and deaths. Registration began in 1911. Central registration of marriages and divorces began in Kentucky in June of 1958. The Office of Vital Statistics collects certificates for all births, including foreign and established birth, deaths, marriages, divorce, and stillbirths. Currently, all new birth and death records are completely electronic from submission to registration. Marriage and divorce records are a hybrid process where hard copies are received and stored electronically. Information is collected from each record and entered by staff into the Vital Statistics database. The Vital Statistics program maintains and operates the only official system for vital statistics in the Commonwealth. The Office of Vital Statistics performs 4 distinct core functions. These 4 core functions are vital records, public requests, protection, and collaboration. The first core function is to ensure civil registration and certification, corrections and amendments, and preservation of all Kentucky vital records. The second core function is to fulfill public requests as directed by Kentucky statutes and administrative regulations. This includes the issuance of certified copies of vital records, for example, birth, death, marriage and divorce certificates, and data requests. For the year 2022, the Office of Vital Statistics issued 802,648 certificates. Federal, state, local, and other public or private agencies may, upon request, be furnished copies of records or data from the Vital Statistics system for statistical or administrative purposes upon terms or conditions. All data requests received are reviewed and approved by the state registrar. The third core function is to ensure the protection of all information included in vital records by maintaining confidentiality and ensuring that data is shared appropriately as required by KRS 213-131. All hard copy records and corresponding documents are secured in vaults within the Office of Vital Statistics. Currently, historical records, new records, and data for each record are collected and stored electronically. De-identified data, which is data where personal identifying information is removed, can be provided upon request. However, each request is scrutinized for need and purpose. The fourth core function is a shared interest with all stakeholders. This partnership supports our goal of collecting data, focusing on data quality, accuracy, timely responses, and sharing data. Each collaboration initiative supports our efforts to improve vital statistics data for public health and to maintain standards both statewide and nationally. Under the guidance of the state registrar, the Office of Vital Statistics performs the following duties as required by KRS 213-031. Administers and enforces KRS 213 and regulations issued, directs and supervises the system of vital statistics, and is the custodian of all vital records collected, enforces the confidentiality and security of the system of vital statistics, directs, supervises, and controls the activities of all persons engaged in activities pertaining to the operation of the system of vital statistics, issues instructions for the efficient administration of the system of vital statistics, develops and conducts training programs to promote uniformity of policy and procedures throughout the state, and prescribes, furnishes, and distributes all forms required by KRS 213, as well as regulations and policies for transmission. KRS 213-076 provides the requirements for filing a certificate of death with the state registrar. This includes method for filing, contents of the certificate, medical certification for the cause of death, timeliness for filing a record of death, supplemental reporting, which includes corrections and omissions, verification of death statements, interment or other dispositions of a dead body, and provisional report of death requirements. As mentioned previously, the Office of Vital Statistics is the sole source for registering vital records in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. The graph shows the total records registered from 2009 through September 2023. Each year, the Office of Vital Statistics will register approximately 150,000 vital records of birth, death, marriage, and divorce. Drilling down further with the focus on death records, this graph provides the historical trend of death records registered during the same time frame, 2009 through September 2023. Each year, the Office of Vital Statistics will register approximately 48,000 death records. This graph provides the historical trend of death records registered per month for 2022. Each month, the Office of Vital Statistics will register approximately 4,775 death records. It is not uncommon to see higher death rates in the winter months. Effective January 1st, 2015, 901 KAR 5025 required all certificates of death in Kentucky to be filed electronically through KYEDRS, the Kentucky Electronic Death Registration System. All funeral directors and medical certifiers completing a death certificate are required to complete a death certificate using KYEDRS. Prior to the mandated use of KYEDRS, a completed certificate of death was mailed to the Office of Vital Statistics for registration. From the date of death to the date of registration, it could take 30 to 45 days. Today, from the date of death to registration, a death record is filed on the average within 12 calendar days. This slide provides an overview of the process of registering a certificate of death, starting from the top left. A decedent passes away, the medical facility coroner or hospice nurse completes their portion of the provisional report of death. This would include the name of the decedent, date and time of death. The person accepting responsibility for the decedent signs the provisional report of death to transfer the body. In this scenario, the funeral director has taken ownership and begins the completion of their portion of the certificate of death. This would include the demographics of the decedent. From the information listed on the provisional report of death and the information provided by the informant, the funeral director enters the demographics into KYEDRS. The record of death is then submitted to the medical certifier. The medical certifier accepts the case and completes the cause of death. After completion of the cause of death, the medical certifier submits the case to the Office of Vital Statistics. The Office of Vital Statistics reviews the record for accuracy. If there are no issues, the death record is filed and a state file number is applied for registration. At this point, the record is complete and secured in the Vital Statistics system. When a certified copy of the death certificate is requested at the time of registration, it is printed and mailed. Otherwise, orders for certified copies are printed when requested. KRS 213-141 requires the Office of Vital Statistics to notify the State Board of Elections monthly of deaths that occurred the previous month. The death data provided shall include name, address, birth date, sex, race, and social security number of residents over the age of 18 in the Commonwealth. This process is completed by transferring data electronically. The Office of Vital Statistics has several applications for collecting and storing vital records electronically. The workflow displayed shows the process of sharing death data with the State Board of Elections. Death data is collected from KYEDRS and stored on secure servers maintained by the Office of Application Technology Services, also known as OATS, on behalf of the Office of Vital Statistics. The death data is then transferred through a secure FTP site, also known as File Transfer Protocol. The secure FTP site used to complete this transfer is called MoveIt. The MoveIt folder displayed is an example of a file transfer to the State Board of Elections folder. Again, this is a secure application that encrypts file transfers. Access to this site requires approval through COT, the Commonwealth Office of Technology. Files left in any folder after 90 days are automatically removed. There are two files available, a PDF version of the data file and a text file. The archive file showing is a hidden file that is not available to the State Board of Elections. This is a backup file. As required by KRS 213-141, the data elements listed in the table shown are transferred to a secured file folder. Access is restricted to authorized users only, and the data file is provided weekly. And that's the end of our presentation.
Thank you. We have a couple of questions. Let me ask you this. Why is MoveIt secure? Is it, I mean, what's the ramifications of it being secure? Is it something that we just don't want to get out, or what? I'm kind of confused there.
That is correct. I don't have all the specifics, but it's an application that allows an encryption transfer. And as far as access, it does restrict access, so not anybody can get to this application.
Okay. Representative Tipton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate your presentation. I have more questions written down than the chair will allow me to ask, I'm sure, but I'll pick a couple here. KRS 213-076 says that all residents who die anybody who dies within the state is required to go through this process. What about Kentucky residents who pass away out of state? How does that happen? How do we get a record of, say, somebody's in the military, somebody's on vacation, they're in Florida for the winter? What happens to somebody who passes away out of state?
It's a very good question. Of course, that certificate will be filed in that state. But we do have, from each jurisdiction, we do share data so that we do receive what they call a file, it's an in-transfer, and that would include births as well. So if someone passes away in Indiana, then we would receive a file, an in-transfer file of that death information.
If I could briefly follow up on that, now, how many jurisdictions are there? I mean, are we looking at multiple states, multiple countries? And one of the reasons I'm asking this is we seem to have more people registered in the state of Kentucky than should be. Secretary of State, Board of Elections have worked diligently on this. They've removed a lot of people from the roll. So just want to make sure that we're getting verification of death certificates to the Board of Elections for every registered voter in Kentucky. And the concern is if somebody's in a jurisdiction that doesn't report, they may not get that information.
So there are 57 jurisdictions where we share data nationally. And again, with the agreements that we have on file, we share that information. So if someone passes away in another state, we will receive that information. Just one point to clarify on too is it does look at the residence, so it's the occurrence.
Okay. Mr. Chair, if you could indulge me with one more question, I'll be
Go
quick.
ahead.
You record the number of marriages and the number of divorces. Of course, you lump those into totals. What are the current number of marriages compared to the number of divorces, and how are the trends been over the years?
I don't have the specifics on the trend. Typically, though, it's about half of the marriages. I would say about 30% 37,000 a year, and on the divorce side, it's about half of that.
Representative Hodgson.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your presentation. I hope we can have this made available to us electronically.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Is there a cumulative death log that goes back a long way? The reason I asked the question is I had a constituent who appeared to be 123 years old, and that seemed unlikely to me. And upon some research, they said, no, that was a mistake. They missed up the first digit of the millennium, and she's really 23 years old, and then found out, no, she died in 1994, and she had not been removed from the rolls. So I'm wondering if there is a cumulative death file that goes all the way back to, I don't know, 1900 that the Board of Elections could have to compare things to.
That is an option if it's requested. We could provide something like that. But as far as the actual data that they're receiving now, these are just new deaths that happen each week.
Okay, so it's quite possible that if the death happened 5 or 10 years ago, then somebody missed it. There's no way that would be caught up automatically.
That I don't really have the answer to that question outside of if a death occurred and it wasn't filed with the state. Now we would receive that information. It would be considered what we call a delayed death. Now, if that is being transferred in this file, I don't have the answer to that question.
Okay, is there a master file of all people who are considered Kentucky residents, so we know how many of those people there are? Because you say other states will transfer a death record if they're a resident of the state. Do we have a master Kentucky resident file or Kentucky citizen file?
We do not.
You're not.
We
Okay.
do not.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Whitten.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation. To kind of leapfrog off Representative Hodgson's question, if the death was not filed, does that affect any potential benefits that person would have received?
I would think so. I think that's an important document to have. So I would believe so.
And currently there is no way to go back and go back.
Vital Statistics has death records back to 1911.
Okay.
But we don't know, we wouldn't know. If we got a delayed death, we would report that then.
Okay.
So if, for example, if someone died, let's say in 2000, and it wasn't reported, so once we receive that information through the process, we would file the death record as a delayed death, but it would have a registration date for today's date.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So Kentuckians come to you for the death certificate
That is correct.
and a birth certificate.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, we appreciate you guys being here. I don't see any more, John.
One more question. The KRS that established a relationship between you and the Board of Elections, what year did that take effect, and was there any effort to go back in history before that time on the death records?
I don't know the exact date for that statute.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
That's 213.131.
No, for 141.
Oh, 141. Okay. Do you have an estimate? I mean, is it decades ago?
I would.
We
I don't have the answer to that. I have to look into it.
Okay. Well, I appreciate if you could follow up with us and say how long that relationship has existed, and that you have been transferring those records there. And was there an effort upon that first transfer to catch up with all the people who had died between 1911 and that date? Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate you guys coming. This committee is tasked with oversight of the voter roll, and we are digging in each week to make sure that it's election security is very important in America today, and we want to make sure Kentucky's doing it right. And we appreciate you guys coming in and especially talking how you interface with the State Board of Elections. That was really helpful. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thanks.
Next, we'll have our good friend John Stephan, the Executive Director of KREF. If you can just give us an oversight of how things are going in your department.
Okay. Like I said, I'm John Stephan, Executive Director of the Registry of Election Finance, and I appreciate the opportunity or the invitation to come speak to you today. Just want to give an update on our filing system. When I believe the last time I was before this committee, last year sometime, I was pretty unhappy with the progress the system was making, with the progress the developers were making on the system and the way the system was working. Expressed a lot of concern, I believe, and kind of we talked about alternatives to going forward. Since that time, I'm happy to report that a lot of progress has been made. I feel like the system's getting the attention it deserves and needed in order to make good progress on it. I think we're seeing a lot less bugs. I know we're seeing a lot less bugs now than we were. There's still some, of course, but that's the nature of electronic systems, unfortunately. I do believe it's also a lot more user-friendly. We got through some very large reports for statewide office holders or candidates in the past few weeks with very few problems. The primary problem I think we had was just the sheer size of the first reports that were filed, bigger numbers than we've seen before. But adjustments were made. Kentucky Interactive's been very quick to respond to problems that do come up since we last spoke, and definitely feel like we take care of problems a lot quicker, and there's a lot less problems than there used to be. There's still work to be done. Most of the work to be done is probably more behind the scenes. Won't affect the candidates or committees as much as it will help us do our jobs. And I know one thing that will help everybody, though, is there's still an app to be developed for your phone, which will make use by phone a lot easier. That's still part of the project we haven't gotten to yet. Do look forward to reaching that point. And even as we go forward, and I'm going to read some numbers to you here in a minute, but even as we go forward, I want everybody to keep in mind that it is always intended to be kind of a work in progress, where when we or the developers receive feedback, improvements can be made. It's not like we're going to reach an end point where nothing more can be done to it. It can't be updated. It can't be maintained at a current. Update is needs are changed, statutes change. It's always going to be an ongoing process there. But we will reach an end point on the system development. Estimate has been given to me as the fourth quarter of 2024. It should be completed, and that means all aspects of it: user aspects, our aspects at the registry, and then the searchable database. I did get some numbers from Kentucky Interactive I thought were interesting, because I didn't really know what kind of numbers we see. So since the system went live in 2020, we've seen about 3,500 statements of intent, spending intents processed for those who are going to spend over $3,000, and over 13,000 statements of intent processed for the under 3,000 filers. So that's 17,000 statements of intent have been filed in the system, which is a pretty large number. We've had over 29,000 financial statements processed through the system, and along with those, when the system went live, it brought forward all the old reports that were still in the system, and we're pushing on like 200,000 reports that are out there in a searchable database. So that's pretty large numbers that we're talking about. And I was glad to get these numbers. I had no idea we had almost 30,000 financial statements filed since 2020. One thing I'm happy to report, that something that you, the candidates, and the treasurers have been asking for a long time, has been the ability to download records into the system and upload them as well. Don't ask me what the difference between download and upload is, but so if your treasurer or staff stores information in databases, they won't have to retype everything into our system, is what I mean. They'll be able to download it from their spreadsheets or whatever they might have directly into the system, thereby saving them a lot of time. They'll also be able to and on the flip side of that is, once the reports are done, they'll be able to download it where they can see what's been entered into that. That's another concern that's been expressed to me a lot, is we're kind of making filings blind, where we can't really see what the numbers we entered into it, well, that'll be fixed too, and we're hoping that happens within the next month or so. Certainly by the next filing or election cycle, we'll have that ready, but we expect it in the next month. Kentucky Interactive did conduct a survey after I think that was something we talked about before this committee. They did conduct a survey last October, and actually came back with fairly good results. They only have 10% of the over 10,000 people who use the system. Only about 1,000 responded. It's only about 10% participation rate, but of that, over half were positive about the filing system itself, and even higher number regarding the public search. So that was a positive. There were some good suggestions made during the course of that survey, and again, please always feel free to contact me with your suggestions for a way to make the systems better and more user-friendly for you. You're the ones that use it every day, or not every day, thankfully, but more often. We see it on our side. We know what we want to see on our side improve, but input from you all is very, very valuable to all of us, developers and my staff alike. That's really all I have. I'm happy to take questions, but I do think, like I said, I think we're making good progress now. There's more work to be done, but we're getting there, and we're always willing, and we'll continue to make improvements to it as we go forward.
Representative All.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, John, for your service and for your testimony today. I have a question as a freshman member of this body and relatively new as a candidate in this space. I seem to have had a few different people assigned to me and my account. I'd like for you to kind of share with us if you're having staffing challenges, recruitment and retention, what you're seeing in that space, because I think some of the complaints we may have on our side is the ability to get a hold of folks sometimes.
Okay, yeah, we did. We were shorthanded for a while. And I'll just lay it out. We had about 4 or 5 staff members leave. One retired. You can't do anything about that. A couple more during COVID. You know, we had a lot of work from home, but I made everybody come back to the office last September. Some people got used to working at home. It fits their lifestyle, fits their whatever their needs were better. They found jobs elsewhere that allowed them to still work from home, at least some of the time. Had a couple more. I know an auditor, they left for jobs that paid better. So it's the usual stuff. We have had quite a bit of turnover. Honestly, we had some people hired, and I've lost 2 more here in the past month that they're leaving. One left for a federal job that paid better, and one left for a state job that paid better. So I guess the usual things people leave for is pay and something that fits their lifestyles better. So that's what happened. I know, yeah, we were down to 1 candidate administrator for a while, so you probably bounced back and forth. We divide up by the alphabet, so you've probably had 3 or 4, honestly, in the last, since you've been dealing with our system, I imagine, which has been a short while, I know. So, but I do think we've hopefully got somebody, in there will stay in the position that's. No, I think your administrator left again. So, but we're working on it.
Well, it's not so much about me.
I know. Well, I know. I know about you, but
as a legislative body, supports you and your efforts to stabilize your staff, recruit, and retain good talent, because we want to have good talent in those positions, because this is a important thing to have staffed adequately for the public interest.
I mean, it's people leave for better pay. I mean, that's what's been happening. I've tried to get those pay rates up for those. They're practically entry-level positions that we have for the candidate administrators. I've tried to give raises when I can. Certainly, the raises you all approved for statewide have certainly helped. But I think
now, where did you approach us on that at?
Did I? I don't think I've asked.
This is the first I've heard of it.
John. I've not asked you for more money for salaries. We were able, because we had some shortages, I was able to slide some salary increases in there to try to help the people that were lower paid. And then the statewide, the approved the 6% this year and the 8% last year helped everybody, but that doesn't help us keep them from going to other agencies who can pay better. And the bigger agencies can pay better, quite honestly, than we can now. So if you find it in your hearts to give us more money. I'll
Well,
take
you
it.
might want to come to the ANR or my committee or whatever and talk about it. So let's start talking about it. I mean, we got to have people to monitor this. Are you down to one person, you say?
No, we're back. We were down to one for a while. It took us, I want to say, advertising it like 3 different times to get enough candidates that we filled the 2 vacant positions. Three candidate administrators, 2 left. We were down to 1. We got those 2 filled. We were up to 3. Now we've lost 1 again because she went to a federal government job that paid better. So it definitely fluctuates.
Senator Leader Thayer.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. John, good to see you.
Thank you.
Full disclosure to members of the committee, John is a constituent. We both live in Georgetown. We've worked together for a long time.
Your boss, then. Huh?
We have 118,500 of them in the Senate. John, by the way, good on you for making your state employees come back to work. There are some jobs that require people to be in the office, and it's about are they doing the job for the people they serve, not about what's good for their cozy little lifestyle. So I appreciate you getting your workers back in the office where they belong. Good job.
Thank you. I agree.
John, you and I worked together very closely several years ago on the bill to require mandatory electronic filing. How many years are we in now? 4 years?
4 years since the system went live, and the bill passed the year before that in 2019. So 4 years. Basically.
Yeah, and I appreciate the members of this committee who voted in support of it. Why are we still having bugs?
I'm not a programmer. I know. I will say one thing I understood. There was a pause when Kentucky Interactive had to do a migration to. And again, I'm not electronically. Maybe that's part of the problem here. But they had to move everything. All their data was where it was stored to something else. And I know that triggered some things. Just the transfer of where the old data came in from our old system, where it was stored, where it went to. We saw some bugs because of that. There are just so many nuances, I think, and I'm not trying to make excuses. I don't understand why some bugs happen. Some bugs seem to come back. Sometimes we have an individual that maybe filed their intent to run 4 years before the election, which is fine, but then maybe some of the fixes that were made along the way didn't fall back retroactively to fix that person's reporting system. There's just a lot of different reasons that I can't fully explain, but I know we saw one that I think you were in the email loop. That was because of the migration, is my understanding. The one we saw, I forget what it was exactly, but
It was in the Attorney General's race,
it was the public database side,
which has had mandatory electronic filing for longer than legislators.
right? Of course, the difference is.
And I see Carlos from Kentucky Interactive in the audience, and it frustrates me as the sponsor of the bill that here we are 4 years into the implementation, and with today's technology, and after lots of testimony where everybody said, "Oh, we were ready to do this," and we're long. I tried to get it passed for 10 years, if you remember. It's just very frustrating for those of us who are candidates, our treasurers, and then the end users, the media, the public. This information needs to be more widely available and done quickly. And it's just very frustrating to me that we continue to have problems. And
I get frustrated too. You see,
I'm sure you do.
I
know
it
you
is
do.
Frustrating.
And I just wish our vendor could get these problems fixed. I mean, it's 2023. This shouldn't be that hard. I'm not a tech guy either, but there are lots of people out there who are, and they're well paid to provide these services. And it's just frustrating to me to continue to get those emails from people who are having problems navigating the system.
Yes.
Thank you for all that you do. I know if you all know this, John is also a member of the Judge Advocate General. He's a JAG in the JAG Corps. Appreciate your service to our country, and
thank you, Senator.
Everything you continue to do to try to make this electronic filing work.
We're going to keep pushing on it. But we'll get there.
I appreciate you.
Representative Tipton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John, I appreciate you coming back today. I've I've been around long enough that you have been before us many times, and I appreciate you having the courage to come back because some of those meetings have not always been pleasant.
True.
On the additional budget request, they're called ABRs. I would suggest you get that in timely to our staff appropriations revenue committee.
Okay.
On the vendor Kentucky Interactive, in past meetings, I got a two-part question here. In past meetings, you have what I'll call a punch list, for lack of a better term, of different items that need to be corrected.
Right.
Have those over time? Have those items been checked off that punch list? Are there persistent items on that punch list that just haven't been able to tackle yet?
There are a few still out there, but short answer would be yes. Over time, we have gotten through a lot of those. I think there's some. I don't have the examples here, but there are a few left that keep coming back. Sometimes we have to prioritize what we have them work on. I know one of the requirements that still has not been met, and part of it is we've asked them to put it off recently here because of other things more important, like that download feature. But the independent expenditure reports are supposed to be filed electronically, as well as the candidate reports. That aspect is not completed yet. So we're still taking paper copies of the independent expenditure reports, and I put them online for the public to see. So we've kind of found workarounds, but that is one thing. I wouldn't call that a punch list item. That's just an unfinished part of the unfinished database or system.
Mr. Chair, if I could follow up with one additional question on this. And you may have reported this in the past, but I hear a lot of numbers. So what was the original contract amount with Kentucky Interactive to do this project, and when was the original completion date? And has that completion date been extended, and have those contracts been reworked for additional cost?
The only I apologize, I don't have the numbers before me. I think we wound up with roughly a $600,000, a little bit under contract. It was supposed to be, and again, best of my recollection, this has been going on for a while. We did start it before the bill that required electronic filing. We had started working with Kentucky Interactive, I want to say about 2017, and entered into a contract. Believe it was a 30-month, and it's been going on a while, so my numbers are off, but it should have been done a long time ago, and you've heard me say that. We have done contract amendments. The only thing that we've agreed to hire to pay extra for was because of the legislative changes that have been made that's not their fault or our fault. Maybe it's your fault, but
it's our fault.
That happens. But yeah, we've had to pay a little bit extra. They had to make some changes to the system last year because of the 2022 session that made some changes. Those were, I think, less than $10,000, so not major changes. But otherwise, we've not negotiated any changes in the amounts paid. And they've not been paid for quite a while. I'm sure Carlos would echo that.
Representative Graham.
Follow up, John, just to say thank you. My treasurer, she appreciates you a great deal, and I appreciate you working with her. And my other comment is that we need good people who are working within your organization to make sure those of us who are running for public office are doing what is the right thing to do. And so I would encourage you, in order to bring in the right people that you need, that you also look at your salaries on behalf of those who are working, who are still with you, but to try to find dedicated as well as experienced people who can do the work and work with those who are running for public office as well as those of us who are already here in public office. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. I've had great luck with my staff and stuff, but it's hard to keep good people. And I'm lucky that some stay just because they like doing what they do, but I know a lot of them could probably go elsewhere. I shouldn't say this out loud if they're watching, but a lot of them probably could find jobs elsewhere. But I've been blessed with good staff, and hopefully we can find some more to replace the ones we lost, and maybe give them better reason, financial incentive to stay.
You want to have people who are going to stay so that you have institutional
Absolutely.
knowledge and they can work with
Because they
those
develop
new ones.
They develop
Right.
that working relationship with
Exactly.
with
Exactly.
your treasurer and the other candidates and everything, and that's important because they know what you're calling about and what the issues are and stuff. So I agree. Thank you.
Representative Hodgson.
Yes, John. First, having served as my own treasurer for 2 years, I'd like to thank you for your staff always being prompt and answering questions. Question with the staff turnover: if you have a candidate for office anywhere in the state that does not meet the reporting deadline and whatever grace period is after that, and they become delinquent, what's the process for following up on them until that report is filed? And is there any public disclosure of that?
Well, we have once they become delinquent, that kind of goes into the legal section. The legal department handles that part versus the candidate administrators that you're more used to dealing with directly. So we have a paralegal and a general counsel that handles that process. We have a kind of a fee system established for how much the fines will be based on how late they are. So we do follow up with candidates who are delinquent. Always our primary goal is to get reports filed, and then we worry about the penalties and things afterwards. But there is a system in the process for that. We reach out to the candidates. We can generate a delinquent list within a day or two after the filing deadline. We go ahead and produce a list and start reaching out to the candidates who are late. So we're talking about staff. We had, for the first time in many modern years, hired an investigator to help us reach out to the candidates who are delinquent, but that's unfortunately one of the ones who got a better offer and he's already leaving. But that's something I hope to continue, just to kind of beef up that enforcement side of the agency. I think we've done pretty good with what we've had to help the side that assists the candidates who are trying to file and things, but I want to beef up the enforcement side, and the investigator will help with that. We'll just have to start interviewing again for another one, but I think he had already been out and served some papers on people that we just didn't have the ability to go out and reach out and touch someone like I'd like to get us to. So that's a work in progress to some degree. I think I answered your question. I don't know if I rambled around there, but
The instrument of letter of intent, how long has that been around?
The idea behind, I've been at the agency since 2015, and the letter of intent theory was there when I started there. It wasn't exactly in statute. It was what it sounds like. It was candidates could send a letter to us saying, I intend to run for office.
That sounds voluntary.
Which enabled them, it was voluntary, which enabled them to start raising and spending money. But with the system and changes to the statute, it is a requirement because, well, one, you can't start raising and spending money until you file something with us because that violates the statute. And two, you're not going to get into our system until you file an intent in the system, which then sets up the reporting deadlines for you and notifies you when your reports are due. So you can't, until you file the intent in the electronic filing system, you can't do anything else, and you can't be raising or spending money until you file an intent with us anyway.
Well,
so
I can understand like a
together.
new candidate or if you're changing office, but if you're continuing that office, I just don't see the need.
It's actually been in the statute that for a while, because we've looked at this, I think this question's come up before, it was in the statute for a while that there was supposed to be a new intent filed between the primary and the general, for example. We being the agency, would do it for you versus the
We got to
system
look at
requires
that.
you.
I think we need to look.
I don't know what we can do, and I don't know what we can do to. We can't make assumptions about what staff knows or what the system's going to know without input from candidates. So that's a very important part of the process, is that requirement to file intent. We do have it set up that we can automatically set up an intent, but you still have to go in and sign off on it. And we had people not do that, even though we sent emails notifications to. So it's kind of a two-way street there. I think we could use more. I think it's necessary, but if there's ways to improve it or ways to make sure candidates know it's there waiting for them after we create it for them, all I got to do is log in and sign it. I don't know. I know we've talked about it before, and I think it's still an ongoing need, but maybe there's a way to tweak it.
I think Representative Johnson might be running a KREF bill, so we will probably be coming and talk to you.
Okay.
soon, and I know that Leader Thayer was wanting to look at some things on that. All right, any more questions? Going once. This will be the final meeting of this committee. Oh, I'm sorry.
Question of you, Mr. Chair. I don't know if this is permissible under our rules, but can I make a motion that this committee request this has to do with our previous presenter, Vital Records Department send a list of every death from 1911 until the first report started in 2019, and send that list to the Board of Elections? No motion needed? Okay.
Anybody can request that.
Okay.
I don't know how official this interim committee would be if we did it, but maybe during session we could have a little bit more power.
That's my intention to make such a request. So
yeah. This is the last meeting of the interim, so see you guys during session, and I'll hear a motion for adjournment.